Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Friday, September 29th, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Friday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Cal Quantrill and Joey Wentz as the projected starters. The Guardians have actually made some big improvements against lefties offensively in the last month. We know Cleveland as a team already does a really good job at limiting strikeouts, but even their OPS and isolated power numbers are improving. Cal Quantrill's pitched pretty well since the injury, honestly. When you look at his last 5 starts, giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in all those games, he's not going to miss a lot of bats and earn a lot of strikeouts. Sometimes he has control issues, but he keeps the ball on the ground and he limits sharp contact, so he's actually having success on the mound. The Tigers have not been a great home team this season. They've been a pretty profitable road team, but not as good at Comerica Park. And Joey Wentz has an ERA just below 7 on the season right now at 6.45. I'm going to go with the Guardians here on the money line. Next up, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Nick Pivetta and John Means are the projected starters. I like the way both of these pitchers are pitching lately. You know, Nick Pivetta's got his ERA right now down to 4.25 on the season. It was a lot steeper before, and his last 5 starts, he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all those games. Good strikeout numbers from Nick Pivetta, at least 5 strikeouts in each of his last 5 starts. And even though the Red Sox bats have not always backed him up, you know, he's still doing his part, and we've seen a lot of low-scoring games for him. 1-0, 3-2, 3-2, and 3-1 the last 4 games for Pivetta on the mound. All of those losses for the Red Sox. I think John Means pitches well here against Boston. This Red Sox lineup's not hitting well against lefties in the last month. Means is in good form. He had a really good outing his last time out. 7 1/3 innings of 1-hit baseball. Only 1 earned run and a 2-1 Orioles win. Give me the under here in Orioles Red Sox. Next up, we stay in the AL East as the Rays take on the Blue Jays. Aaron Civale and Hyun-Jin Ryu are the projected starters. And I think we could see a high-scoring game here with both of these starting pitchers coming off pretty rough outings. We saw Ryu give up 5 earned runs and 3 home runs. Civale gave up 6 earned runs in 3 innings of work. But I think the Rays have the better bullpen in this matchup, and I trust their offense more here. I think Civale is also the better starting pitching option with the Rays crushing lefties in the last month. But like I said, the bullpen, when you look at Tampa Bay in the last month, a 2.4 ERA and the best Sierra in baseball. The Blue Jays bullpen not too shabby in the expected numbers, but a 4.61 ERA. Not going to get the job done here. Give me the Rays on the money line on the road. Next up, the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the New York Mets. Taijuan Walker and Tylor Megill are your starters. We saw both of these pitchers face the opposition. This was the exact same pitching matchup last week. It was a 5-4 Phillies win in extra innings. Megill pitched well, 6 innings, a 3-run ball, so quality start. Walker, same thing, quality start, 6 innings, a 2-run ball. Walker, this season has not pitched too well on the road as with an ERA above 5, but the Phillies have won a majority of his most recent road games, and he pitched at Citi Field quite a bit last year. He pitched really well there with the New York Mets last season. He was 5-1 at Citi Field, pretty good ERA. I think Walker pitches pretty well in this game, but when you look at both of these teams, 2 solid offenses against righties in the last month. Like I said, Walker struggled on the road. McGill's pitched well at home, but I just trust this Phillies bullpen more at the end of the day. Phillies bullpen in the last month, a 3.47 ERA, the 6th best Sierra in baseball, while the Mets bullpen, ERA above 4. Not very good expected numbers. I think that's the difference maker in this game, so give me the Phillies on the money line on the road. Next up, the Washington Nationals taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Trevor Williams for Washington, no official starter for Atlanta. I can't trust Williams in this spot. He's struggled in the second half of the season. We saw his last game. He gave up 3 earned runs, but it was only 2 innings of work, so not a good outing there. And before that, he gave up 6 earned runs and 8 earned runs the 2 starts before. Some of the final scores in his last few starts, 9-5, 7-3, 11-5, some blowout games. He's got an ERA just below 15 in the month of September. And you got the number one lineup in baseball against righties this year in the Atlanta Braves. I can't trust the Nationals pitching staff here, so give me the Braves laying the 1.5 runs. Obviously not a great price here, so I'll be staying away from this one. Next up, an interleague matchup between the San Diego Padres and the Chicago White Sox. We're going to see Nick Martinez and Dylan Cease as the projected starters. And Nick Martinez, not my favorite option out of the bullpen, but I will say in the starting pitching role, he's actually been pretty solid for San Diego. We saw his last game against the Cardinals. 4 innings of shutout baseball, set the Padres up really well in that game. The offense even gave him a lead, and the bullpen blew that one in the end, but Martinez pitched well before that against the A's, 3 innings of shutout baseball. He hasn't given up an earned run since September 9th, so he's pitching well for the Padres, and I do think the Padres have the better lineup and bullpen in this matchup. Dylan Cease is the ace of the White Sox, but he's not pitched well this year with a 4.6 ERA, coming off a really good outing against the Red Sox, but I still don't trust this White Sox bullpen because Cease can go 5-6 strong innings all he wants, but this White Sox bullpen in the last month's got an ERA above 6 and the second highest ERA in baseball, so give me the San Diego Padres on the money line on the road. Next up, a big-time NL Central rivalry between the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. Kyle Hendricks and Brandon Woodruff are your starters. Kyle Hendricks has pitched well on the road this season, better on the road than at Wrigley Field with 3.08 ERA, and he's pitched well against Milwaukee this year with a sub-1 ERA and about 12 innings of work against the Brewers. We know Milwaukee hasn't really hit righties too well in the last month, so I think Hendricks pitches pretty well, but Brandon Woodruff on the other side is tough to go against also. I mean, 5-1 record with a 2.28 ERA this season. His last start wasn't his best, but that was on the road against the Marlins. He returns home here. He's got a 1.15 ERA. Give me the under here in Cubs Brewers. Next up, we'll go to Kauffman Stadium as the Yankees take on the Royals. No official starter for Kansas City, but Carlos Rodon should be going for New York. It's been a disappointing season for the Yankees and Carlos Rodon, who's 3-7 with a 5.74 ERA. And he's facing a Royals team here that's actually hitting lefties very well in the last month. And we've talked about how their offense in general has really improved in the second half of the season. Maybe a team to watch out for at the beginning of next year. But in the last 30 days, Kansas City top 10 in baseball in team OPS and isolated power against lefties. I think we see a strong offensive showing from Kansas City in this one. I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals on the money line here at home. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Colorado Rockies. Joe Ryan and Ty Blach are your projected starters. Ty Blach's actually been pretty solid at Coors Field this season. I mean, a sub-5 ERA. You don't see a lot of that in the Rockies rotation this year. A 3-0 record at home this season. He's been better at home than on the road, which is also rare for a Rockies starting pitcher. But the Twins, they have solid numbers against lefties offensively, and they should still have a solid day at the plate in this game. But Joe Ryan is a starting pitcher that has not pitched well on the road this season with an ERA just below 5. And now you're pitching on the road at Coors Field, where if you're a starting pitcher like Joe Ryan, who gives up a lot of sharp contact, fly balls, and home runs, like 17 home runs on the road this year, not really the best matchup for you. So I think there's value with Colorado in this game. Should be a high-scoring game, so I lean towards the over, but give me the Rockies plus the 1.5 runs in this one. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Brandon Williamson and Jake Woodford are your starters. Brandon Williamson not really pitching deep into ball games recently, which is a concern for me and the Reds pitching staff because this Reds bullpen in the last month has the 5th highest SIERA and a pretty steep ERA to go with it. Not where you want to be if your starting pitcher's only going 4, maybe 5 innings. And Williamson already faced this Cardinals lineup once, and while St. Louis has struggled against lefties in the last month, they were able to get to Williamson for 3 earned runs, 4 total runs, and 4 1/3 innings with 4 walks to go with it. I like the fact that St. Louis limits strikeouts at the dish against righties and lefties, so they should be able to get to Williamson here. And Jake Woodford also, not my favorite starting pitcher to back, an ERA above 5 on the season. He was okay in his last game against the Padres, but I do think Cincinnati will be able to get to him. Give me the over in this one in Cincinnati-St. Louis with a lean towards the Cardinals as well. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Ken Waldichuk and Chase Silseth are your starters. One of the worst games on the board for this weekend. Really, there's going to be a lot of rough games as we see, teams clinch playoff spots. There's going to be fewer and fewer teams with something to play for, and we know these teams haven't had a lot of play for quite a while, but I do think the Angels win this game. I just rather take them in the first 5 innings. Silseth's been out for a while with a concussion. He was pitching well, though, before the injury, and I think he pitches pretty well against this weak Oakland A's lineup. Waldichuk, a lefty on the road, don't really trust him here, but I also don't love this Angels bullpen, so that's why I would rather just take him in the first 5 innings and lay a half a run. Next up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. J.P. France and Zach Gallen are your projected starters. Zach Gallen's been really strange in the month of September because he's just been so inconsistent. We've seen really good outings from him, like the games against the Cubs where he went a complete game shutout. His last game against the Yankees, 6 innings of shutout ball with 8 strikeouts. But then we've also seen some rough games where, he gave 4 earned runs, 6 earned runs, and 5 earned runs in 3 of his 5 starts against the Giants, Mets, and Orioles in September. Gives him a 4.45 ERA so far this month. But you're facing an Astros team that's number 1 in baseball in team OPS against righties in the last 30 days. You're also pitching at Chase Field where overall this season you've been really sharp, but in your last 2 games, giving up 9 earned runs in 10 1/3 innings. I think the Astros get to Gallen. I think J.P. France has been really sharp on the road this season, 6-2 record with a 3.11 ERA. And I also think the Astros have the slightly better bullpen here, so give me the Astros on the money line on the road. Next up, we go back to the AL West as the Rangers take on the Mariners. Nathan Eovaldi and Brian Wu are your starters, and we saw the same pitching matchup last week. That game was a high-scoring 9-8 final score, and both starting pitchers struggled in that one. Eovaldi gave up 5 earned runs and 2 home runs. Wu gave up 6 earned runs and 4 home runs. The Rangers have crushed righties in the last month, number 4 in OPS, number 2 in isolated power, low strikeout rate, high walk rate to go with it. The Rangers should be able to get to Wu. The Mariners should be able to get to Eovaldi and this Rangers bullpen, which, Eovaldi hasn't really been pitching deep into ball games. The Rangers bullpen's not been the most trustworthy in the second half of the season. Give me the over here. The same pitcher, the lineup facing the same pitcher in the same week. I think the benefit goes to the offense here. Give me the over. And your final game for Friday's card in Major League Baseball, we're going to see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Francisco Giants. Lance Lynn for Los Angeles, no official starter for San Francisco. We've seen plenty of bullpen games for the Giants this year, so could be another one in this game. And officially on Wednesday night, the Giants were eliminated from playoff contention in the National League wildcard race. A pretty disappointing end to the season for a Giants team that was looking pretty good in that playoff picture not too long ago. But Lance Lynn faced this Giants lineup last week. He pitched really well in that game. It's not easy facing the same lineup twice, like we just mentioned. But Lynn is in really good form. The Dodgers are 3-0 his last 3 starts. 2 of his last 3 starts have been quality starts. He's missing bats. He gives up a lot of sharp contact. He gives up a lot of home runs, but the Giants lineup has not been great in the second half of the year in general against righties and against lefties. And the Dodgers bullpen, one of the best in baseball. The Giants bullpen not pitching too well in the second half of the year with an ERA above 4 in the last month. So give me the Los Angeles Dodgers here on the money line to end the night. And that's it. Those are the games for Friday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.